Kia ora koutou. Welcome at this unusual time. Welcome to my home. I'm hoping that the lighting in here will be okay and that it won't fade as it gets dark. Fingers crossed. I hope you're all feeling safe and putting things in place for the next few weeks. I'm going to remain coming online, offering yoga groups. My intention is to move to YouTube and make them more accessible to other people as well. But in the meantime, I'm just getting through the technical privacy stuff for being able to do that. I also want to mention that if you like on this page or make comment, that your comment or like may be seen by someone else, not necessarily from this country. For some reason already I've had people kind of pop up from other places in the world. You're more than welcome to join the practice. So I'm not quite sure how this technology all works. I've got a little list of things to go through here. That was a privacy regular. Yeah, the other thing is that if you don't have a mat, you can always use a bath towel or a blanket, whatever works for you. So a little bit different in my space, and I imagine it might feel different in your space at home. So hopefully you've found a place where you can feel comfortable and safe. You might have the door open or closed. It's up to you. So perhaps just finding a way to feel comfortable in your space and maybe taking a breath. Perhaps noticing that you're breathing. Your breath comes and goes, it ebbs and flows, and it's always there. So when you're ready, you might like to bring your awareness to notice where you make contact with the ground. And one way could be using your hands to notice where you begin and end. And another option could be to look. A third option could be to move. So perhaps moving your torso, maybe moving. Perhaps moving and breathing. You may like to move from side to side, from one side of your mat to the other side of your mat. Or perhaps moving and breathing. Maybe noticing the sensation where you make contact with the ground. Knowing it's only a possibility. We don't always feel sensation. And knowing that there's no requirement for you to do as I say. You're welcome to explore other forms at any time. Then when you're ready, maybe sitting up tall, perhaps bringing your awareness to notice what it's like to sit up tall, perhaps taking a breath. Maybe noticing that you're breathing. Then in your own time, maybe moving to explore your shoulders. Perhaps moving your shoulders. Maybe in circles. Maybe forward and back. Possibly finding a way to move your shoulders. And breathing. finding your way back to neutral in your own time. And if you like, maybe moving to explore your head and neck. So one option could be to move your ear towards your shoulder, perhaps lifting your head through midline and bringing your other ear to rest on your shoulder. Like one option could be moving your ear in half circles. Maybe moving your ear to your shoulder, perhaps moving through midline, maybe moving to your other shoulder. Another option could be lifting and lowering your chin. Maybe moving your chin. And if you're moving your chin, you may begin to feel sensation in your neck. A possibility. So if you like, exploring moving your chin in your own rhythm. And breathing. Then if you like, guiding yourself back to your neutral and perhaps moving your torso, maybe moving your torso in circles. Perhaps moving your torso, maybe in circles. You're welcome to move in either direction. Perhaps noticing that your breath is with you. Ebbs and flows, comes and goes, and it's always there. So maybe moving your torso. Finding your way back to your neutral in your own time. Knowing that all the forms can be explored on a chair or the mat, standing or seated. So if you wanted to move to explore cats and cows, maybe on a chair, you might like to lengthen your front torso, lift your chin and looking up. And then in your own rhythm, maybe tucking your chin, curling your spine and looking down. So that's a seated version of cats and cows. Then you're welcome to move in your own pace. If you wanted to explore this on your mat, maybe moving to all fours, perhaps bringing your awareness to notice where you place your hands and knees, maybe moving. Then if you like, dipping your spine, lifting your chin and looking up. And then in your own time, curling your spine, tucking your chin and looking down. So those two movements, you're welcome to put together in your own rhythm. Maybe looking up, maybe looking down, and breathing. Perhaps noticing your breath is with you. If you're moving your spine, you might feel sensation in your spine. It's a possibility. So maybe moving your spine. Maybe looking up. Perhaps curling your spine and looking down. And in your own time, maybe sitting back on your ankles, perhaps resting your forehead on your hands. If you like, finding a resting form that works for you. And if you're seated, maybe bringing your elbows to your knees and perhaps resting your forehead in your hands and breathing. You might notice the sensation of your breath, maybe at your nose, your mouth, or possibly moving in your body. Then in your own time, maybe moving to explore lifting and lowering your leg, or perhaps lifting and lowering your arm, or maybe lifting and lowering your leg and arm. So if you're on all fours or on your mat, maybe bringing your awareness to notice where you make contact with the ground. If you like, lifting and lowering your leg, or maybe lifting and lowering your arm. If it's available, perhaps lifting and lowering your leg and arm. Always knowing there's no requirement to do it what I say. If you're moving your leg, you might feel sensation in your leg. If you're moving your arm, there's a possibility you might feel sensation in your arm. So perhaps moving your leg, maybe moving your arm, and breathing. And in your own time, finding your way back to resting, perhaps sitting back on your ankles, maybe resting your forehead on your hands and breathing. One way of noticing your breath could be to count each inhale. So one way of noticing your breath could be to count your inhales until you get to 3, and then starting again. So as you breathe in, you count 1. As you breathe in, you count 2. And as you breathe in, you count 3. When you get to 3 breaths, you start again. So that's one option for noticing your breath. So next, if you like, maybe exploring bringing your weight to your hands. So if you like, if you're on your mat, maybe coming to all fours and stepping your hands forward, bringing your weight to your hands, lifting your chin and looking up. And in your own time, maybe bringing your torso back to your ankles. If you like, finding your own rhythm, bringing weight to your hands and looking up. Moving torso back to your ankles. If you're seated, what you may like to do is bring your hands to your knees and then raise your arms and look up. So perhaps bring your hands to your knees, raising your arms and looking up. Maybe being guided by your body and finding your way to resting in your own time. So when you're in resting, there's no requirement to be still. You're allowed to move, perhaps noticing where you make contact with the ground. Perhaps noticing that your breath is with you. It ebbs and flows, comes and goes, and it's always there. Then in your own time, if you would like to explore a lunge, one option could be to step forward with one foot, arranging your arms in a way that's useful, maybe at your knee, perhaps the floor or your side. And you're always welcome to move in the form. If you're seated, Maybe moving to the side of your chair and perhaps holding the chair, maybe dropping your knee. If you like, arranging your arms in a way that's useful for you, and breathing. So perhaps exploring a lunge. And in your own time, you're welcome to switch. Perhaps stepping forward with your opposite foot and breathing. Arranging your hands or arms in a way that's useful for you, maybe at your side, perhaps out in front. Possibly noticing that you're breathing. And if you're interested, you could switch again. It might feel different this time, so maybe switching and breathing. Switching again in your own time and finding your way back to neutral, your resting form when you're ready. Maybe sitting back on your ankles, perhaps resting your forehead on your hands and breathing. So from here, if you would like, perhaps exploring a toe stress. So a toe stress could be done seated or on your mat. So if you're seated, what you may like to do is lift your heels, perhaps pressing your toes into the ground. If you're on your mat, maybe moving to all fours, if you like, tucking your toes and perhaps bringing your hands back towards your knees, or maybe sitting back on your ankles and breathing. Anytime you can move in and out of the form, so that's your choice. So maybe sitting back on your ankles, maybe stressing your toes and breathing. Maybe moving in and out of the form, possibly feeling sensation in your feet, or maybe not at all. And in your own time, perhaps finding your way back to neutral, back to resting, perhaps sitting back on your ankles, maybe resting your forehead on your hands and breathing. And you might notice your breath is with you. So if you wanted to explore a downward dog, there's a few options. I'm going to offer a seated one and one from all fours. So you may like to tuck your toes, maybe lifting and lowering your knees, sorry. Maybe lifting and lowering your knees, or perhaps lifting and lowering knees together. Or if it's available, maybe lifting your torso, perhaps moving your knees. If you're seated, what you may like to do is extend your legs, maybe maybe raise your arms. So maybe extending your legs, perhaps raising your arms, and if you like, moving your toes. So in your own time, moving into a resting form, perhaps exploring your expression of downward dog, maybe moving in and out of the form, perhaps finding your way to resting in your own time. You might like to bring your awareness to notice the sensation of your breath. Is it fast or slow, bumpy or smooth, deep or shallow? Knowing there's no right or wrong way to breathe here. Your body knows how to breathe. Your breath is always with you. So from here, if you're interested, maybe finding your way to your expression of seated or standing mountain. Just hoping my head's not chopped off there. I don't think it is, so I'll move back a bit just in case. And you may like to perhaps lift and lower your feet. Maybe lifting and lowering. Maybe feeling the sensation of where your feet make contact with the ground. If you're interested, maybe moving your knees. Maybe bringing your torso in line with your ankles. If you're seated, perhaps sitting up tall. And you may like to bring your head to balance on your shoulders. Just going to move the camera just slightly. So finding your expression of seated or standing mountain, and maybe moving your head to feel, or moving your head to balance it on your shoulders. Finding your expression of standing mountain or seated mountain. Perhaps taking a moment in stillness. Perhaps noticing that you're breathing. If you do feel the sensation of your breath, maybe moving in your body or perhaps at your mouth or nose, you're welcome to take your hand there, perhaps bringing your awareness to notice the sensation of your breath. Then in your own time, maybe moving your arms, perhaps lifting and lowering. Maybe moving your arms. If you like, you could bring your hands to touch above your head, maybe lifting and lowering. If you like, you could coordinate your breathing with your movement. So breathing in as you move in one direction, perhaps breathing out as you move in another direction. If you like, breathing and moving. Moving in your own rhythm, maybe lifting and lowering your arms. Then if you're interested, perhaps moving to explore a forward fold. So one option could be to soften your knees and perhaps bringing your elbows to your knees. If you like, tucking your chin. Another choice could be moving your knees. If you're seated, what you may like to do is bring your elbows to your knees, perhaps tucking your chin. Maybe moving your hands towards your feet. So if you like, leaning forward and breathing. At any time, you can move out of your forward fold, maybe moving in and out of your forward fold and breathe in. Maybe feeling sensation in your torso, but knowing it's quite normal not to feel anything at all. Guiding yourself back to your expression of standing or seated mountain. And if you like, moving to cross your elbows, perhaps bringing your hands to your shoulders and breathe in. If you're interested, you could perhaps move your chin. Maybe experiment with what happens if you move your chin. You might feel the sensation of your hands on your shoulders. Maybe feeling the sensation. I'm going to sneeze, I think. It's probably these flowers. So maybe bringing your hands to your shoulders, maybe bringing your awareness to notice where your hands make contact with your shoulders. And in your own time, perhaps switching and breathing. So maybe crossing your arms in the opposite direction. If it's of interest, maybe moving your chin. Then in your own time, maybe loosening your arms, perhaps shaking your hands. And if you like, bringing your hands into your line of vision, maybe moving your fingers. Perhaps bringing one hand in contact with the other hand. Maybe bringing your hand in contact with your other hand. And breathing. You might feel the sensation of your hand making contact. You might feel the sensation, and you might not. Then finding your way back to your neutral. Find myself sitting on the chair. I'm going to continue sitting on the chair for a little bit. And you're welcome to be standing or lying. Maybe exploring leaning to your side. So one option could be to drop your arm to your side, or maybe raising one arm and leaning to your side. Or a third option, raising both arms and leaning to your side. So if you like, leaning to your side and breathing. Anytime you're welcome to switch. If you're leaning to your side, you might feel sensation in your side. Perhaps in your ribs, or maybe not at all. And when you're ready, finding your way back to your neutral. And if you like, moving to explore a balancing form. So perhaps finding your expression of seated or standing mountain, maybe moving your feet. If you're seated, what you may like to do is bring your hands to your upper legs and perhaps experimenting with pressing one foot into the ground and slightly lifting the other. So maybe pressing one foot into the ground and lifting the other. So balancing, you're always welcome to use a chair for support, and maybe shifting your weight into one of your legs, perhaps straightening that leg if you like, lifting your other heel off the ground, maybe lifting and lowering your foot. If it's available, maybe bringing the sole of your foot to the side of your leg. It's your choice. So perhaps experimenting with standing on one leg and breathing. So sometimes it can be helpful to find a spot that's not moving, maybe a spot on the wall. If you like, standing on one foot, maybe lifting and lowering. And in your own time, maybe switching. So perhaps straightening your other leg, shifting the weight into that leg. And if you like, lifting your heel off the floor, maybe your foot, perhaps lifting and lowering. Or maybe bringing the sole of your foot to the side of your leg and breathing. So perhaps exploring pressing one foot into the ground. And if you're pressing one foot into the ground, you might feel sensation in that leg. It's a possibility. So maybe pressing one foot into the ground. And in your own time, guiding yourself back to upright, to your expression of seated or standing mountain. Maybe softening your knees, perhaps bringing your torso in line with your ankles, or maybe sitting up tall. Perhaps bringing your head to balance on your shoulders and breathing. Now, I haven't offered this form, well, I might have for this group, but it's chair. So chair form, finding your stability, and if you like, sitting like you're in a chair, perhaps raising your arms. So how much you sit is up to you. You're always welcome to explore this seated from a chair. You might feel sensation in your abdomen. You might feel nothing at all. At any time you can move in and out of your form. Finding your way back to your expression of standing or seated mountain in your own time. If you would like to move into warrior one, maybe bringing both feet towards the front of your mat and perhaps stepping back with one of your legs. And you may like to move in the form, or perhaps have your hands at your side, or possibly extended. You're welcome to move. If you're on a chair, what you may like to do is support yourself with a chair and perhaps extending one leg behind, maybe raising your arm and breathing. So if you like, exploring your expression of warrior one, and in your own time, maybe stepping both feet together, and if you like, stepping back with your opposite foot, and breathing. So maybe stepping back with your opposite foot, arranging your arms in a way that's useful for you, maybe at your side, perhaps out in front. If you're on a chair, maybe turning and exploring this on your other side, and breathing. Guiding yourself back to upright in your own time. Maybe taking a breath, and if you like, doing that again, maybe stepping back with one foot, with your foot, arranging your arms in a way that's useful for you, and breathing. And if you like, being guided by your body, perhaps switching to explore this on your other side. So maybe switching. Finding your way to upright in your own time. And if you like, moving to explore warrior two. So if you like, bringing your toes to face the long edge of your mat. Perhaps stepping your feet apart. And if you like, turning one foot to face the short edge of your mat. Then you're welcome to move or have your legs bent or straight. Arranging your arms in a way that's useful for you. Maybe leaning forward, perhaps resting your elbow on your forward facing knee. And breathing. If you're seated, what you may like to do is step your feet together, maybe stepping your feet apart, turning one foot to face out from your body, maybe raising your arms. If you like, bringing your elbow to your forward facing knee and leaning forward. And you're welcome to switch at any time. So perhaps bringing toes to the long edge of your mat and turning your foot to the short edge of the mat. Perhaps raising your arms. Maybe leaning forward and breathing. Maybe bringing your elbow to your forward facing knee and breathing. And guiding yourself to upright in your own time. Moving into your expression of standing or seated mountain. And next, if you like, moving to explore half moon. So if you're seated, what you may like to do is perhaps raising your arms, maybe lifting and lowering your leg. If you're on your mat, you're welcome to use a chair or something to support. Perhaps leaning forward, maybe lifting and lowering your leg. Knowing how much you lift and lower is up to you. So if you're interested, lifting and lowering, and you might feel some sensation in your leg. You might notice that you're breathing. And in your own time, finding your way back to upright, your expression of standing or seated mountain. And if you're interested, maybe moving to explore bending your knees. You might like to use the support of the chair, maybe bending your knees. Knowing how much you bend is up to you. If you're seated, what you may like to do is maybe bending your knee. Another option could be to squat. So maybe bending your knees, perhaps bringing your hands to your mat and breathing. And at any time, you're welcome to move to seated on your mat or your chair for some floor sequences. Oops. So maybe moving to seated on your mat. And if you are seated on your mat, sometimes a cushion or a rug can support your spine for seated practice. So you may like to have your legs crossed. You can choose whether to have them one way or the other, seeing what works for you. Or maybe with the soles of your feet together, or legs extended. It's up to you. So maybe crossing your legs, maybe extending. And if you would like to explore a twist, maybe sitting up tall, perhaps taking a breath. And if you like, turning your chin to your shoulder, perhaps bringing one hand to your opposite knee and sitting up tall. If you like, bringing your other hand behind you and sitting up tall. And then only if it's available, maybe twisting. And you might feel some sensation through your abdomen. It's only a possibility. At any time, you're welcome to move back to center, perhaps sitting up tall. If you like, turning your chin to your shoulder and maybe bringing your hand to your opposite knee and one hand behind you and twisting and breathing. So at any time, you're welcome to switch. So sometimes we can be guided when we need to move or how to move by what we feel in our body. So maybe being guided by your body, moving to switch and breathing. Maybe noticing your breath is with you. And finding your way back to center in your own time. So if you wanted to explore leaning forward, you might have your legs crossed or extended. It's up to you. Maybe bringing your hands to your knees, perhaps tucking your chin. It's one option. Maybe leaning forward, perhaps bringing your hands to the floor. So if you like, maybe leaning forward, perhaps bringing your hands to your knees, maybe further down to the floor, and breathing. If you're seated, maybe bringing your hands to your knees, maybe tucking your chin, perhaps leaning forward and breathing. If you're interested, you could move between leaning forward or perhaps bringing your hands behind you and leaning back. At any time moving to leaning forward, maybe transitioning to bring your hands behind you and leaning back. So maybe exploring leaning forward or perhaps leaning back, or maybe moving between the two. Possibly noticing that you're breathing. Finding your way to upright in your own time. And then if you like, maybe moving onto your abdomen for some floor-based practices. So if you're seated, what you may like to do is extend your legs, possibly folding your elbows and raising your arms. And if you're on your mat, on your abdomen, you may like to bring your elbows under your shoulders and perhaps hands resting on your mat and breathing. So you could choose to look up or down or straight ahead. It's a possibility you might notice the sensation of your breath against the mat or the surface beneath you. So maybe noticing the sensation of your breath. Choosing whether to look up or down or straight ahead. And at any time, you're welcome to bring your forehead to rest on your hands. Perhaps noticing that you're breathing, that your breath is always with you, comes and goes, ebbs and flows, and it's always there. Then if you're interested, maybe a rolling form, so you may like to extend your arms and perhaps bring your face or your cheek to rest on its side on your mat. Then if you like, bringing the hand that you can see and pressing your hand into the ground, maybe moving onto your side and breathing. At any time, you're welcome to switch, moving back to centre, perhaps bringing your opposite cheek to rest on your mat, bringing your hand close to your shoulder and rolling to your side. If you're seated, what you may like to do is bring a hand to your shoulder and extending your hand, maybe turning to your side. Maybe extending your arm, perhaps turning to your side. Maybe pressing your hand into the ground, perhaps turning to your side. And breathing. Possibly feeling sensation in your shoulders. Then when you're ready, perhaps moving into a resting form, maybe using your hands to move your torso back, maybe into child form, perhaps sitting on your ankles, maybe resting your forehead on your hands, and breathing. If you're seated, maybe bringing your elbows to your knees, perhaps resting your forehead in your hands. If you like, bringing your awareness to notice where you make contact with the ground, perhaps looking, maybe moving. Then if you like, moving onto your back to explore some forms, moving your knees. So if you're seated, what you may like to do is bring your hands to your knees, maybe moving your knees from one side of your body to the other side. You're welcome to move them individually or together. This is your choice. If you're on your back, what you may like to do is bring your feet close to your torso, flat on the ground, and perhaps extending your arms. You may like to shift your knees to rest on one side and look in the opposite direction. It's a choice. So maybe bringing your knees to rest on one side and looking at in the opposite direction. And then in your own time, maybe lifting your knees through midline, perhaps bringing your knees to rest on your other side and looking in the opposite direction. So finding your own rhythm, maybe lifting your knees through midline, perhaps bringing your knees to rest and looking in the opposite direction. Another option could be moving your knees from one side of your mat to the other side of your mat. So you get to choose what's right for you. You're welcome to try them all. Or maybe lifting your feet off the ground and perhaps moving your knees from one side of your mat to the other side of your mat. So if you're moving your knees, there's a possibility you might feel a change in pressure, a change in sensation where you make contact with the ground. It's a possibility. So maybe moving your knees. And then I think last week I offered a form that's meant to be a useful form for getting rid of toxins from our lymph. So I'm going to offer these two forms. You're welcome to do them, but there's no requirement. So if you're on your back, the first form is moving your toes. And so bringing your toes towards your nose and toes away from your nose. So moving your toes forward and back quite quickly. And you may find that your body moves in that rhythm. So you're welcome to do that. If you're seated, maybe extending your legs and lifting and lowering your toes. So that's one option. And another option could be, put that there, is perhaps bringing your torso close to the wall and maybe bringing your legs up the wall. Or possibly legs on a chair. And the legs up the wall or the legs on the chair is said to bring the fluid back to your core and kind of give it a big pump and a flush. So either of those forms, if you want to try them, you're welcome to. Perhaps trying legs up the wall or maybe on the chair. And then, if you like, finding your way back to neutral for the last part of the practice. I'll offer a body scan exercise, and as always, you're welcome to tune my voice out. If you want to follow it in your mind, you're welcome to do that, or perhaps taking your hand to the parts I name. You're also welcome to move, maybe moving that part. There's no requirement to be still. You're allowed to move in resting form. So if you like, bringing your awareness to notice where you make contact with the ground, Maybe moving, perhaps looking. If you like, taking a breath. And as you breathe out, maybe bringing your awareness to notice the support of the surface beneath you. Then, if you like, maybe bringing your awareness to notice sensation at your eyebrow center. Sensation in your right eye. Sensation in your left eye. Sensation at the tip of your nose. Sensation in your jaw, perhaps moving your jaw. Sensation in your neck. Sensation in the whole of your right arm. Sensation in your neck. Sensation in the whole of your left arm. Sensation in your neck. Sensation in your heart center. Sensation in your right ribs. Sensation in your heart center. Sensation in your left ribs. Sensation in your heart center. Sensation in your abdomen. Sensation in the whole of your right leg. Sensation in your abdomen. Sensation in the whole of your left leg. Sensation in your abdomen. Sensation in your heart center. Sensation in your neck. Sensation in your jaw. Sensation at the tip of your nose. Sensation at your eyebrow center. Sensation in the whole of your body, your entire body, the whole of your body all together. I'm going to offer some silence, and then I'll ring the chime and offer you the opportunity to close your practice. Do know there's no hurry to move. And when you do want to move, maybe wriggling your fingers and toes, perhaps moving to rest on your side. If you like, taking a moment to acknowledge your practice, maybe acknowledging your purpose or intention. Perhaps it was to nurture yourself, or maybe connect with yourself. So if you like, acknowledging your practice. I'd like to thank you for practicing with me. I know some of your faces. And my heart goes out to you all at this time when we're all doing our best to take care of ourselves and each other. I trust you rest well. Take care. And I will be back on Thursday, 9:15. If it's on YouTube, I'll send you an email and let you know. So all the best. Take care. Ka kite anō. Need my glasses.